All right, students, we're going to be covering Module 8, Homework 2 now. So this introduces the equation involving rate of change. Rate of change is where you have like a price for a bag of five pounds of potatoes, right? So if I said I had $4 for 5 pounds of bag of potatoes, I would say how much would it cost per pound, right? This is the same thing kind of where we have 126 miles that we can drive on 7 gallons. They're saying if we drive 126 miles using 7 gallons of gas, what is the rate of gas consumption? So we're looking at how much is it per gallon, so miles per gallon. And all you got to simply do is divide the top number by the bottom number. So you can just use a calculator to do that. You don't have to worry about it too much. So it's 126 divided by 7, and we get 18. All right, so it's 18 miles per gallon. And so you can just divide it out, and there's your answer. So, and the miles per gallon is actually already written for you. You don't have to put that. All you got to do is put the 18, and you're done. So that's how this works. Pretty simple, if I say so myself. A little easier than what was dealing with Module 8, Homework 2, that's for sure. Let me do something here. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit for you. All right, now with the next question, all right, it has find the unknown number in the proportion. Now, this right here, when we're dealing with this, is a simple process of using your calculator as well. And I have what I call the fishy method. So I cross multiply and divide, and it gives me my answer. And I do that because this right here, the tail joining with the body of the fish, creates the multiplication symbol. As you can see, there's a multiplication. The mouth of the fish, along with his eye and his little dimple that I'm going to give him, creates a division sign. He needs scales to or gills to breathe. He needs fins to go ahead and to swim. So I'm going to have to decorate him a little bit. So that is my fish, and I like to have a little pucker fish. So I'm going to go ahead and give him some pucker lips and some little bubbles because I just want to do that. It's fun. So anyway, you have a very cutesy way of trying to remember proportions now, called the fishy method. All right. I thought you guys would like that. All right. So anyway, you can just take your calculator and do the 50 times 24. All right. And then divide it by the 20. And you don't have to sit there and worry about your multiplication and do I know how to do it or not. Just go ahead and just say x equals 60. So as long as you go ahead and cross multiply and divide, it gives you your answer. Okay. Now it says Tiana rides for 4 hours on a bicycle. What is the rate if she rides 44 miles? So we're looking at how many miles per hour. So we could take 44 miles that she's going and divide it by 4 hours. Then we're going to go ahead and find out how many miles per hour. We would do 4 divided by 11, or excuse me, 4 divided by 44 divided by 4, and we get 11 miles per hour. All right, so we're going to go ahead and select 11, or put in 11, and then select, of course, miles per hour. All right. Last week you worked 20 hours and earned $215. Use this information to calculate your hourly pay. So this is going to be how much per hour. So it's 215 divided into 20, or divided 20 divided into 215. Okay. We will go ahead and just take 215 divided by 20. And that would give us $10.75 per hour. So we have $10.75 per hour. Now give your answer in dollars and cents like this. Okay, well we did. I did at least. Okay. Now it says you need 1¼ cup of sugar to make 20 cookies. To make 12 cookies, you need blank. So the way this works is just like the proportions with the fishy, is that it takes for 20 cookies, all right, you can go ahead and write it any way you want, but put 20 cookies, put 1.25. All right, so this is cookies, cups. Well, that's a proportion then with, okay, we have 20 cookies and it wants to know how many cups is it for 12 cookies. So we go ahead and cross multiply and divide and gives us our fishy again, okay? So you just take your calculator, do 12 times 1.25, and then divide that by 20. And you get 0.75. So 3/4 cup. And it says enter your answer as a fraction. So if I see this, then I should know that as 3/4, right? And that's why I said 3/4 cup before I go ahead and show the answer. So you guys understand that if it needs a fraction. Now, if you didn't know how to change this, let's say hypothetically you didn't know how to change this into this, you put 75 over 100 because this is 75 hundredths, because this is in the hundredths place, and then you reduce your fraction. Well, you think about 3/4 and 4/4 because of the fact that quarter is 25, or divide it by simply by 25, and you get the 3/4, by the way. That's how fractions work, if you've forgotten how they work. It's changing from decimal into fraction. Now, it says the triangle big is similar to mop. Okay, so big and mop, whoops, big and then mop. All right, that means that I and O are congruent to each other, they're the same angle, and then that means B is similar to M and G is similar to P. So I want to know that because I'm looking at these sides that are opposite of them. So if I have I and I have O, and I'm looking at these values, I want to have a relationship. Okay, so if I look at IB, okay, or BI, however I like to look at it, right? Depends on which direction I look at it. You can go ahead and recognize that BI is the same thing as MO. So I'm going to go ahead and look at MO is similar to these. So they're congruent sides, okay? They're corresponding sides, I should say. Okay, so I'm looking for corresponding parts. This is geometry at its finest, okay? So if I'm looking at that, then I can look at BI as I, or V, excuse me, they give it the letter V, all right, is congruent to, it's congruent to, corresponding, I should say, to MO, which is going to be 87, okay? So they're corresponding parts. So now I'm looking at also the information that I see there. I have BG. BG is corresponding to MP in this. So BG and MP are corresponding parts, corresponding sides. So I'm going to go ahead and put the smaller one first, which is going to be BG is 62. And then I have MP is 93. Now, I think that's the hardest part of this, because now that I have these three pieces of information, I'm just going to put V over 62 because they're corresponding to the same exact triangle, or I could have put V over 87, but I'm going to keep it like this, and then I'm going to put 87 over 93 because these are all the corresponding parts. Now I have that. I'm going to do cross multiply and divide, and it gives me our answer. So that's how this works. 62 times 87, and then divided by 93. I get 58. So V is equal to 58. All right, I got the answer. So geometry is a really hard one to remember, but I've given you these kind of like little tricks on identifying to parts, identifying to angles. The corresponding parts and angles are important here when you're looking at these, okay? Now it says in Phoenix, the tax on property assessed at $600,000 is $12,600. Which of the following proportions could be used to find the tax on property assessed at $450,000? So what we do is we have a couple different ways of writing this, but we can go ahead and look at $600,000 is assessed at $12,600. So we're looking at then it's going to be 45, or I should just say 450,000. How much this property tax is associated with that? And we have question mark or X. We don't know. So we're going to look for that. We see that they don't have what is that? They have 600. They put the 600,000 over. Okay, so they have these reversed, but the third one there is the answer because we have the 600,000 over the 12,600 equals the 450,000 over X. So that third one is the answer. They just have written backwards. Okay, so now they're saying that there's multiple answers. I'm interested in that. Okay, select all proportions that are, that could work. So now I'm going to go ahead and, okay, so if that's the case, the third one works. We already determined that. Now the next thing we could do is put down 600,000 over 450,000, and if that's the case, we would set that equal to 12,600 over X. That's one way, or 12,600 over X equals 600,000 over 450,000. So I'm looking for that as an answer. All right, I don't see that as an answer anywhere. But now the last thing we could do is switch them. Okay, we could switch them around where we go ahead and flip it upside down. Okay. Oh yeah, so each of these we can flip upside down. That's what it is. So you could switch them and look for that as an answer choice. As long as you flip them simultaneously, you flip it right. All right, we're okay. So we're looking for switching these around. Because this isn't, I don't see this anywhere in there. 600,000 over the 45 or 450,000. I don't see that. But the last one there, it says it has 450,000 over the 600,000, and then that means it would be X over 12,600. So the last one is the answer choice, and that one works as an answer. So that's why that one is in there. And then, of course, flipping this one around, you have 12,600 over 600. And that means this one is also a viable answer. Because these two are actually the same exact thing, by the way. These two middle ones. So that's why all three of those are available. All right. So that was a little bit interesting. I like that. So it's a matter of keeping the proportions intact and understood. So suppose you work for a large coffee distributor that has the secret coffee blend it sells in local stores. You mix the Arabian mocha blend for the breakfast blend, but always in the same proportion. Yesterday you mixed 90 pounds of Arabian mocha blend with 18 pounds of the breakfast blend. Today there is 50 pounds of Arabian mocha coffee left in stock. How many pounds of coffee or breakfast coffee should you mix with it to get your secret blend? Okay, so that all they're asking, that's so much words, but all you got to do is put 90 over 18 equals, and then it's the 50 pounds over X, and that's your answer. So it's the proportion. So just hit 50 times 18 divided by 90. And that would be 10. And that's your answer. 10 pounds. So it's just proportions. All this entire time it's been nothing but proportions. So the distance between two towns, 624. On a map, it represents by 6 inches. So then we do 624 over 6 inches. All right. And then we're looking at how many inches would represent the 1560. So I would go ahead and multiply 6 times 1560 divided by the 624. Now it equal 15. So it says record the proportion that you would use. Okay, I use this one. That would be this second one here. Okay, so I would go ahead and use that, and my answer would be 15. So yeah, the reason why is because they're putting the inches over the miles. I like miles over the inches because I like to think of it as how many inches or how many miles per inch for the scale model. So that's why my mind thinks like that. So it doesn't matter which one you choose though, because the cross multiply and divide will give you the same answer. So you have 50 milliliters contains 160 milligrams. All right, so I'm going to write that down. So I'm going to go ahead and do, it doesn't matter how I write it. I'm going to do this, 160 milligrams. And then it says, if your child's pediatrician says that your child can take 48 milligrams, how many milliliters? So we're looking at 48 milligrams. And then how many liters? So this is the X. So again, you can write it this way or the reciprocal of each of those. So I used the one that's this first one actually, but in opposite order. Like I put this one second, where they put that one first. So and it'll accept that answer. So again, if I was writing that in, I would just go ahead and I'm going to show you that they'll accept that answer. All right, so I'm going to put in 5 over 160. And then go ahead and set that equal to the X over the 48. And then, of course, I would go ahead and use my calculator. Do 5 times 48 divided by 160. Now it give me 1.5. Of course, that's the right answer. So I'm submitting next questions because I want you to prove to you that you have multiple ways of writing this in there. Okay. Now, for equations involving, these are called little equations. And what we're basically doing with this structure is using all of our properties for isolation of variables. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all those things. So we're reversing PEMDAS basically. Some people say it that way. I don't even like saying it that way. I'm just isolating a variable, and the called out variable is D. So this is the variable I need. I need to get this out of the denominator. But I see a D is over here as well. So watch how this will work. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and multiply. Let me see. I'm going to actually cross multiply. That's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to cross multiply these things together. Watch this. So some of you like the arrows that I put. So it's going to be PD equals G times D plus B. That's the first step I need to do because I got to get these D's together somehow, and they're in the denominator. So that's a pain when they're in the denominator like that. So I need to do the distributive property. So I'm going to get this. And then I'm going to bring this over to the other side. And then I'm going to factor out a D because D is in both of them. So I can factor out a D. I'm sorry, I needed to put G. And then now that D is not with these two, I can divide both sides by P minus G. And here is what D represents then. Okay, so I would have that as my answer. So you'll see that they'll put G like this. I hate when they do that, to be honest. I don't know why they do that. They'll accept absolutely the answer that I gave. It's more appropriate that you just multiply the G to the B. So put GB. All right. And make sure if it's capitalized, you capitalize it. If it's not, then you don't. Okay. So then I would put the P minus G. Because I know some students, they see this answer and then they see my answer and question why is that different? And the answer is not. I mean, it's just that they're not fully multiplying out the G to the B on the numerator. Okay, so you got to understand that they're the same thing, and I proved it to you by just putting down one, or excuse me, I get 1 out of 1, so I get the right answer, right? So this is little equations. Little equations are important for, especially when you're going into a lot of formulas and you need to isolate for a certain variable. So now they have this equation and they want to solve for R in terms of S and T. I mean, well, okay, well, really just get R by itself. It doesn't matter how many variables are involved or whatever. It's just use your properties. So when we talking about getting R by itself, okay, I need to go ahead and get R out of the denominator, okay? So what I have to do is multiply. Well, if I go ahead and multiply everything by RST, I'll go ahead and get the this to have no more fractions. So I'm going to, just like I did before in the last lecture, I can go ahead and multiply by the LCD on both sides. So RST, when I multiply that out, I'm going to get ST plus 2 times R. And by the way, all of this is big letters. And then I'm going to get 5 times RS because the T's wipe each other out, right? So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and get the R's together. So to get the R's together, I could bring this over or bring this over. So I'm going to choose to bring this one over and set it equal to the ST. So it's going to be 5RS minus 2R equals ST. Now I got the R's together. I'm going to factor out the R. So I have 5S minus 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 5S minus 2. All right, now we have R equals this. I like this so much more than the last lecture, as the last lecture has a lot of moving parts to it. All right, but this seemingly is more bearable. Doesn't make the last lecture impossible. It just makes it more difficult. I mean, it's a lot more moving parts. So you have this. And we're solving in terms of x, getting x by itself. So what we'll do is multiply both sides by 3 minus x. And when we do, we get this. We need to solve in terms of x, okay? So we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by y. And then that leaves me with 3 minus x equals 7 over y. And then I'm going to bring this over and bring this over. So when I do, that'll leave me with x equals, and then I'm going to have 3 minus 7 over y. Now, this is an acceptable answer. However, if I wanted to make it one thing, like if I want to make it where it's under one denominator, I can go ahead and multiply this by y over y and make it become 3y minus 7 over y. So either one of these are acceptable answers. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so they gave that second one. All right. However, watch this. I'm going to put this in. They'll accept this answer as well. So I want to make, I'm assuring you that they will accept that. So let's go ahead and show you by doing it. So 7 over y. Okay. Now they want us to put it in x. They want us to write out the x. So it's a red flag when it says syntax error. This is not an equation. So I want you guys to recognize that sometimes you do that, and there's red flags all over when I'm seeing red all over. So it means they did something wrong, and it's actually saves you from getting it wrong by just asking you to put it in proper syntax. All right, just prove to you that by getting 1 out of 1, that this is an acceptable answer, even if we put it that way. So I put that as my answer, and then of course I gave you the alternative as well. Now, these questions right here, the last couple, is getting you to do multiple literal equations. Okay, so we're going to do them. They're moved very quickly. That's why they've given you multiple ones. So we're going to go ahead and do solving this in terms of b. So all you got to do is subtract a from both sides. So it's going to be c minus a. The next one, rt equals w. Solve for r. All we got to do is divide both sides by t. So here's your answer. See, these move very, very quickly. Okay, so these are very, very quick. And they probably want the entire thing because they're not putting in the, they want you to give the equation. So when I do this and this wipes out, and I go ahead and copy this, all I'm doing is putting the r equals w over t, okay? So I would put b equals c minus a for the first one. And then I would go ahead and put r equals w over t. All right, and then the next one is going to be where I got to get the v and the negative x over to the other side. So this one's going to be w equals negative v plus x y, plus xy. So it's going to be all three of those. So to write it down, I would just simply move the other two variables that are not being solved for over to the other side. So it's going to be negative v plus or minus, or plus, excuse me, x plus y. So now how you write this doesn't matter, but here's the answer. Okay, they put the y and then the negative v, but I assure you that they'll accept negative v plus x plus y. Now when we're solving for b here, we're going to go ahead and just divide both sides by 2h because we got to get b by itself so that these wipe out. So your answer is b equals v over 2h. And these are going to be very much the same. Okay, so it's a matter of getting P by itself. I would divide both sides by RT. So it's going to be P equals I divided by RT. So that's, and remember, you got to be careful with your variables. Make sure if they're capitalized, you put capitalized and so on, and lowercase if they're lowercase. Okay. So this case it wants us to solve for y. All right. So we're going to bring the 7x over and make it become this. All right. And then we divide both sides by 11. So y equals, and then we can write this as our answer. All right. Now notice how they put the 4 first, because it's awkward to put the negative first. I have a tendency to do exactly what they're doing too, because I like to put instead of having multiple signs, it makes it longer. I would just put the 4 minus the 7x. I agree with them with this answer, but this one would be acceptable, this answer that's right here. Okay. Now, when they go ahead and ask you to solve for C here, we have an issue with the grouping. So we got to get rid of that B that's multiplying it first. So we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by the B to get rid of it. And then we're going to bring the D over and make it become negative. So C equals A over B minus D. And or I could put it as A minus BD over B. So I write that both ways. Sorry, it's off the screen. All right, now this time, for inconsistent purposes, they didn't put it this way, they put it the first way. That's why I said it's either or. All right, I think the first one is a lot easier to write. I would put this answer personally, like the way they did it, rather than this answer. Now, the last one is solving for t. So I'm going to go ahead and get t by itself. So we have t multiplying against PR, but has also a p being added. So what we're going to do is subtract the p from both sides. And then solving for t, we're going to divide both sides by PR. So t equals this. All right, and that's little equations at its finest. And that concludes the homework section for this lecture for 8.2.